Paul Browde is a psychiatrist, he's an actor, he's a producer. Paul, join us.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to take a moment to actually look at you, because it is in connection that my brain calms down. So it really helps to just see who's in this room. And then all of you who are not in this room, I'm looking at you too. So I'm very excited. I can just feel the excitement in this room, and I'm so excited to be part of this community and to be part of this conversation that is new. It is a new conversation. And I've been thinking about that this is a momentous day. This is the 10th of November, 2018, for most of us. For some of the people online, it's the 11th of November. But on this day, we're creating a new conversation, because some of the conversations about masculinity and about gender are, they're for me bankrupt. I don't know where to go anymore with conversation. So I'm excited to be part of this inquiry into what's new. How can we start to speak about things in a new way? But before starting to speak about things in a new way, my job today is to think about how we can listen in a new way. So I'd like you to consider that it's not the speakers who are going to be creating the conversation today, but that it is in fact your listening. Your listening is going to shape what happens here today. So if you imagine that listening is a bowl, and speaking is a liquid. Just as the bowl gives the liquid its shape, so your listening is at this moment giving my speaking its shape. Your listening is constituting my speaking. So, I have notes that I've prepared because I was anxious, but I know that whatever I've written down is not what I'm going to be saying, because what I'm going to be saying is coming from you in this very moment. So your listening is everything. Now, if you notice, if you just take a moment, and I'm going to ask you to do this actually, so if you could please put down your things, or whatever you have, and just take a moment to sit and feel yourself in your body, and close your eyes, if you're comfortable to. And just take a moment to check in and listen to your body. And just consider all the energy that it took to be in this moment, in this room, sitting at your computer, wherever you are right now. Think about when you first heard about this conference, and then all it took to get here. All the arrangements you had to make. The financial part. The travel, and then getting into the room this morning. And just see how that all lands in your body. And now expand your listening. So for all the people in this room, I'm going to ask you to expand your listening as far out as you can, to include all the people who are joining us from across the world. And now notice any obstacles you have to listening right now. Maybe you're distracted by something that you have to do later. Maybe you have some bodily discomfort. Maybe you have some judgment of what I'm saying at this very moment. And just notice the obstacles. All that is going on right now is present in that bowl of listening that you are. And so in a few moments, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes. And as Marcel Proust said, the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscape, but in having new eyes. So I'm going to ask you to open your eyes and look out at this day right now as a mystery, as an unknown. And you may still have some obstacles that are present for you. So for just a minute or two, I'm going to ask you to turn to the person next to you and let them know what's there in the bowl of listening for you. Another way of saying that is, what is shaping your listening right now? So just take a couple of minutes to do that. Thank you. Oh, thanks. Hello, I'm Paul.
Hi, Paul. I'm Terry.
Hi, Terry. Great to meet you. And if you, hello. And if you haven't switched, please switch now. Yeah. No, not another person. Just making sure you've both spoken. Yeah. Okay. If you could bring it to a close, please. The what? Oh, the gong. Bong! Okay, thank you. Great. Thank you. So just take a moment now to come back into yourself. Just for a moment, check in with you again. Take a deep breath. So now I'm going to give you the opportunity to practice listening. And I am asking you to give me the gift of your listening. And what that means is that as you listen to me, I'm going to ask you to notice any obstacles that arise and let them go and bring yourself back to me. And the way that I do that, and it's been a very important part of my journey for the last 20 years, is through telling you a story. So I'm going to tell you a story. So it was a Saturday, just like today, and I was in my office at 8 a.m. preparing the space for the couple who were to arrive at 9. I meditated, I vacuumed the carpet, I rearranged the chairs over and over again. I looked at my watch, and at 9 o'clock precisely, the buzzer went. Now, I knew nothing about these people who were coming except that they were a married couple, a man and a woman. My teacher, who was Heidi Schleifer, who's an extraordinary teacher that Esther introduced me to, had said that for this kind of work, it's important to know nothing about the couple, because anything that I knew before they came in would be a preconception. I would have a story that I would then slot them into while working with them, rather than relating to them as a wide open mystery. So my preparation was to create a mystery and to be in a state of awe for these two humans who were coming into my room. So they came in and they sat down, and she had a warm smile, and she was wearing these pastel-colored flowing clothes, and she and I connected. He was dressed in a checked shirt, gray pants. He had an angular jaw, and he was muscular. And I got the sense that perhaps he had somehow been dragged to be here today. Anyway, I did my thing with them, and I discovered that before I start, I want to go to my habitual first question, which is what I've been trained to ask, which is, what's the problem and why are you here? But I don't, because the first question of this kind of work is, what is your deepest aspiration? As a couple, what is the deepest aspiration, your wildest dream? And I ask. And I say, you have all the time in the world to answer it, because in fact, I'm going to be with them from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 2 days in a row. So they answer the question, and I work with them to teach them how to dream. What is their dream as a couple? And what I get at the end of the dream is that for her, her longing is to live a more spiritual life. And his longing is to be sure that his children are protected and safe, particularly financially, so that they never have to worry. And I spend the day with them, doing a process that I'm going to show you a little bit of in a few minutes. At the end of the day, I say goodbye to them, and I go home, and I am very worried. Because what has happened, so what the process is called crossing the bridge. What crossing the bridge means is that the man and woman sit opposite one another. They sit knee to knee, they hold hands, they look into each other's eyes, and they take turns in visiting the other's world. He invites, or she invites him, he invites her to cross the bridge into the other's world and to leave behind their own world, leave behind any sort of ideas about the person, any preconceptions, any judgments, any desire to help or fix or change. And that's my job, is to make sure that the person is truly visiting the other without bringing their own baggage along. So with this couple, what has happened is that every time she invites him in, he makes a joke. And his jokes are they're not nasty jokes, but they're a bit ribald, and then they just bring them out of the process over and over again. And I go home and I find myself really worried. I'm not delivering what I said I would deliver. And I'm wondering about him. Like, what is it that he's not able to do? And then I start to think. And I think, this is not about him. This is about me. You see, I realize that I'm judging this man. So when I was 10 years old, my best friend was Hillary. Hillary grew up next to me in Johannesburg, and we played every afternoon. There was a hole in the fence. And our magical world, we had a pixie hut, and our magical world consisted of goblins and fairies and invisible people who came to us for dinners. And we would create these dinners with potions made out of different colored rocks that we'd crushed and made into liquids. And we would perform for them and sing and dance. And we had this fantastic play world. But we also had a secret, you see. And the secret was that while she was Hillary, I was not Paul. Who I was in our world was Melanie. My name was Melanie. She was Hilly, and I was Many. And Hilly and Many, we spent days and weeks and years, actually, as those two people. And we had the most wonderful time. And one afternoon, it was also a Saturday, because I remember the light. It was autumn in Johannesburg, and my brother, who was 10 years older than me, was going off to a rugby match. And he walked past the Pixie Hut where we were playing, and he said, just one line, he said, "Bye, have a great afternoon, see you later." And then he said, "You two are definitely going to get married one day." And as he said that, something happened. It was like a shard of ice just entered the space. And I felt something I'd never felt before, I think. I felt shame. I was suddenly being asked to play a role that had nothing to do with the game we were playing. The space between us was such a pure, fun space, and suddenly something happened. And Hilly and Many never played again. So some years later, I was at high school. It was an all-Jewish school and was an all-white school in apartheid South Africa. So think about the context shaping what goes on in that school. And at break time, I stood with a group of boys at break. The boys stood separately from the girls. And I stood with this group of boys who were not really my friends, but they were definitely better than the boys who sat on the wall, because they were the bullies. And I stood with a group of boys at lunchtime, eating my sandwiches and talking. And one day, I found myself, I stood like I always stood, which is, if you can see me, I stood like this, with my one leg crossed over my other. And suddenly, one of the boys turns to me and he says, "Browde, you stand like a girl, man." And I realized that standing like this is how girls must stand. So I moved my leg back like that. And every break time now, I had other things to notice besides the boys on the wall. I had to notice how I was standing. And it was very automatic for me to stand like this. And I kept pulling my leg back. So I thought about that, about the man of the couple who was seeing me. And how, to me, he was one of those boys. He was either the boys on the wall, or he was the boy who told me that I stood like a girl. And I had to hide from him the girly part. I had to hide Many, and I had to hide that really sometimes I do stand like a girl. I had to hide that metaphorically. I had held back from him. And I realized that I was expecting them to cross the bridge to one another while I was not crossing the bridge to him. And unfortunately, I knew that the only way out of it was that I had to tell him. Yeah, unfortunately. So, which also really, breaks all the rules that I'd been taught, which is, I'm supposed to be some kind of expert. So I went in the next morning, and I did. I started by apologizing to him. I said, I have to let you know that I feel that you and I haven't really connected properly. And it's because of me. I said, because I have been holding a judgment about you as a man, because as you know, I'm gay. So I'm openly gay, and they know I'm gay. I said, I have been holding it that you judge me as a gay man. And I said, that's not you, that's me, and I'm so sorry. And I'm going to leave that judgment now of you on my side of the bridge and really give you what you came here for. And I said, and by the way, the joking, it's got to stop. I just, it doesn't work. And he looked at me and he said, consider it done. And it was. It was done. And so this bridge crossing method that I feel so privileged to have learnt over the last several years is predominantly work that I've been trained to do it with couples, and I've done it with couples. But in the last year, I've started wondering if it's got an application beyond couples. So if there's a way in which, if two people are willing to sit opposite one another, surrender their own world and cross into the world of the other, whether it can work for people to talk about difficult conversations, is whether people who have very different opinions, very different realities, if they're willing, can do it. So just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Bulgaria, and I've been part of a project, the company that I co-created called Narrative. We've been invited to be part of a project called Changing the Narrative about the Roma in healthcare in Europe. So for those of you who don't know who the Roma are gypsies, although gypsies considered a derogatory term now. But they're the most discriminated against people in Europe, and so we've been working for 4 years with these people. And so I was there in the room, and with a group of doctors and Roma advocates and psychotherapists, and I asked them if there would be 2 men who would be willing to come and sit in 2 chairs opposite one another, and I would lead them in crossing the bridge. So 2 men reluctantly agreed, and they came and sat there, and usually the couple I would have hold hands. I didn't ask them to hold hands, and I didn't even ask them to touch knees. I just asked them to look in each other's eyes, and they could not. And the one man just couldn't look, and he kept turning his head away and avoiding the process. So eventually I stopped it, and I said, what's going on? So he said, the only time I've ever looked a man in the eyes is when I'm about to fight with him. He said, that's what looking in the eyes does. So for me, when I look him in the eyes, it brings up my desire to hit him. I want to fight with him. And it would take something for me to retrain my brain so that I no longer have that reaction. And he said, the only time I ever look a woman in the eyes is when I'm making love with her. So eye contact is not something that I do with someone I've never met before, which was really interesting to me to see that I couldn't just assume that the eye contact was going to be something that did calm the brain. It may be something that we have to learn to use to calm the brain. So what I've discovered through my work in this way is that a growth edge for me as a therapist or as a guide, I don't even like to call it a therapist, because therapist puts me in a helping role, whereas when I'm doing this work, I'm very clearly a guide. My job is to make sure the visitor is visiting and leaving their world behind, that the host is hosting and being generous and inviting the person in, and that's it, really. There's nothing else that I have to do. I'm not there to create any particular outcome. But what I've discovered is that doing it with men is harder for me than doing it with women. I found it much easier with women. And I was going to say, when I told you the story of Hilly and Meni, I can still feel the shame. It still feels shameful to even say it to you in this room right now. And now it's being recorded. So what I'd like to invite, because it's a growth edge for me to work with men, so it's for me the growth edge, I'd like to invite 2 men for whom sitting opposite from another man might be, I don't want to say difficult, I don't want you to come and make it difficult, but it might be challenging. It might be something that, and especially in front of a room like this and all those people out there. So is there one man, first of all, who would be willing? Thank you. One, and the man behind you. Thank you so much. So if you would both please come up. I just... We do have clip-on mics. Hi. Owen. Hi, I'm Paul. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hamish.
Hamish.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Free therapy in New York. It's not something you experience every day. Hi.
So they've never met each other before. And this is the experiment, is two people who've never met each other before can actually drop into being connected with one another, given the right container. So I just want to make sure that the people over there who can't see, if you can't see, please feel free to just move so that you can for this particular piece of it. And anywhere. So what's comfortable for you in terms of distance from one another? How close are you willing to get?
Is it a showdown?
No, it's just what feels comfortable. Okay, so then please move a little bit closer. So actually, so this is perfect, and I'm not going to ask you what I would do with a couple, and I'm not going to do it here, is ask you to hold hands and have your knees touching. But I'm going to ask you to just close your eyes, both of you. And take a moment to just be in yourself. Check in with yourself. And now I'm going to ask you to do probably one of the most difficult things. Keep your eyes closed, but I'm going to ask you to open your eyes. And when you open your eyes, I'm going to ask you to connect with the other while staying connected to yourself. Because often what happens with people is when you open your eyes, you either get lost in the other or you cut off from the other and stay stuck in yourself. So here I'm going to ask you now to please open your eyes and just look into the eyes of this man. And keep breathing. And just see this man. And with your eyes, and no need for words, just say thank you. Thank you so much for being willing to be with me in this moment. And know that as you look into each other's eyes, keep looking. And you may need to let go of some old patterns if they're there. Your brains will start to calm down. So this is based on the idea that your relationship lives in this space between you. And that you can invite one another to cross the bridge. There's a metaphorical bridge that lives between your two hearts, like this. And one of you can walk over that bridge and land in the heart and the world of the other. So which of you would like to be the host, and which of you would like to visit?
I can host.
All right.
All right, great. Hi, how do you say your name again?
Hamish.
Hamish. So Hamish, if you could just, I'm going to ask you to invite Owen into a neighborhood in your world. So your world is this vast, expanding universe called Hamish. It's unknowable. It's so vast. But in it, there are neighborhoods. And one of the neighborhoods is the neighborhood of being a man. So I'm going to ask you to invite Owen into the neighborhood of being a man. So you say, Owen, I'd like to invite you to cross the bridge into my world. There's a neighborhood I'd like to show you.
Owen, I would like to invite you to cross the bridge into this neighborhood that I'd like to show you.
Thank you. Great. So now, Owen, what you do is you really get the invitation. So it's a very rare invitation. This human being who you've only met a few moments ago is inviting you into his world, and he's going to show you around. And what it's going to take is for you to leave the world of Owen behind. Leave your fear, leave your preconceptions, leave your everything that is the world of Owen. And when you can feel yourself doing that, you walk the bridge over and you let him know when you've arrived.
It's an honor to be a guest in your world.
Beautiful. So that's a very important part of it, is that Owen said it's an honor to be a guest in your world. And the appreciation of the guest, the appreciation and the openness to hearing anything that Heinrich's world is about. So now what you're going to do is one essential statement at a time. Just one statement. He's learning your language, so there's not room for a whole lot of words. Just a statement of what wants to be said. You speak that to him.
You've got beautiful eyes. Is that a form of statement?
Yes, it is. So just say it again.
You have got beautiful eyes.
So now what you do is you really get that. You get that that's in his world. And what you say is, what I hear you say is, and you just reflect what you heard.
What I hear you say is, I have beautiful eyes.
And then you ask him, am I with you?
Am I with you as I say that?
And you check in. Is he with you?
Yeah.
And then you say,
Absolutely.
tell me more.
Tell me more.
Your voice is very soothing.
Does that bring me deeper in?
So that question, let me ask you about that question. Teaching moment here. What was that? Where was that from, that question? Whose world?
My world.
Yes.
I want to experience more of his world.
Yeah, so you just, that's what we call an oops moment. Oops.
I do a lot of those.
So you go back and you leave that question, because that's from your world, and you just say, what I hear you say is, and you just reflect back what you heard him say.
What I heard you say is I have beautiful eyes.
And then he said something else.
And the voice.
Oh, and the voice. And the real soothing voice.
Yes. And then you say, am I with you?
Am I with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me more.
Tell me more.
So Owen, let me check in with you for a second. Is there anything that's pulling you back into your world? Anything in the content or anything in what's happening right now that's pulling you back?
My focus on you.
On me. Okay. Great. So what is that? What's the focus that I'm watching?
And it's the dual attention.
So that's very helpful. So I can help with that and move a little back. And I can also ask you to just, bring yourself back and say, tell me more.
Tell me more.
I'm not sure if I should make a joke now. I'm really afraid of jokes right now. Because of how Paul said that jokes are banned in these situations.
So just stop with that.
Yeah.
That's good. And you just say what I hear you say.
What I heard you say is you don't know if you should tell a joke now. And that you say that Paul says jokes are bad.
But my lower back hurts. All my stress goes there, right this moment. Even though, as Paul said, the brain waves are going down, so I'm more relaxed. But yeah, my back hurts.
And so just because we don't have a lot of time, I just want to show you that there's not only words, so there's a whole lot of emotion. if you look into his face, and you can see the smile, you can see the eyes, just take him in. And when you feel that you're taking him in, not only physically, not only verbally, but also physically, let him know what you heard.
I heard that your back hurts and that you don't know if you should crack a joke about it, because that's what Paul was saying earlier. And I heard that you're confused.
And then you ask him, am I with you?
Am I with you?
Yeah, you're picking up the confusion. That's right, yeah.
I'm picking up your confusion.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tell me more.
Tell me more.
About myself?
Well, you look. So now you look and see, Heinrich, if that neighborhood, so if you feel that that's it for now, if you feel that you've said enough for this moment, if you feel that he's been in your world and he's been with you and that's sufficient, check with your body if there's anything more you want to say.
I'm not sure. I have no idea.
You're not sure. You have no idea. There's just more to say.
My mind is a total blank right now.
So that actually is the moment. So your mind is blank, and I'm going to suggest that because we, in the interest of time, we're going to stop here, but I want you to just sit in that blank moment together. So his mind is a total blank, and you're with him in his world, and he's in a state of not knowing. And that's a really beautiful place to sit. So the two of you just hang out in Heinrich's world, in the not knowing place. And then I'm just going to ask you to thank each other. So if you could start by thanking Owen, Heinrich, for visiting your world, and tell him what you most appreciated about his visit.
Thank you, Owen, for visiting my neighborhood. Yeah, just to take part of this in this moment. It's amazing.
Thank you. And now thank him. Thank him for inviting you into his neighborhood, and let him know what you most appreciated about the visit.
Thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate the courage of your vulnerability.
And now just take one moment between you to feel the space between you and just give words, a couple of words to the quality of the space that you feel right now.
I feel it's in and out, so it's fluctuating constantly.
Constantly fluctuating space. Yeah. Okay. What about you, Owen?
I feel that we're on a precipice of connection.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a good way of putting it.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you, for doing this. And now we only have a couple of minutes, that clock is telling me. So I would like to ask you all if there's anyone who would like to just say a couple of words about what you witnessed here between these two very courageous men. Anyone like to say something? Yes, you've got a mic coming to you.
Hi, everyone. When two people meet on a level and another person physically feels understood without the words, there's a healing process that goes on.
Thank you.
That's what I witnessed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Laura here. I witnessed just an incredible amount of courage and vulnerability and openness. I could feel your trepidation coming to stage and your willingness to play. and the way that you both connected and shared this moment in front of all of these people was really beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I actually had a question. I was curious to hear more about what was going on in your minds when you thought about this moment and that it was uncomfortable for you, but that you were going to do it anyway. And also, what created the precipice of connection versus actual connection? What barriers might have been there?
So can I just step in? Because for now, first of all, in the interest of time, but second of all, I really want to keep away from analyzing content, because this is so much about process and not content. So it's a great question and would be very interesting, but it takes us into a different domain. So you can speak to them about that later. Thank you. One more. Yeah.
Maybe we could have a diversity of responses. Gentlemen, or those who would like to be gentlemen for a moment.
Oh, that's a good idea. Well,
how about we hear from you too?
Hi, I'm a gentleman. I felt with you guys in the nervousness of, waiting for the connection to happen. But I also wanted to point out, I think that the whole room calmed down. So that's the effect of two people connecting can, affect the rest of us as well, the rest of humanity. So thank you.
thank you. One last one. There we go.
Where?
There.
Hi. This might be my listening bowl as a man, but I felt like I witnessed some concern and attempt to get it right.
Yes. Yeah.
Paul?
Yes.
Can I ask one more?
Sure.
In the room, who is the person who often sits and thinks about what they want to say and then doesn't say it and then goes home and wish they had spoken?
So I haven't done my part now, or that was the thing. That basically taking part in this was a wonderful opportunity. I usually prepare some really good questions, and no, I usually do them, but it's more for my own account that I'm the smart guy to bring up this really intricate piece of information that I really need to get from the guy.
It's more than doing it right, it's doing it better.
So yeah, that was a good one.
Okay, I mean, we could obviously keep going, but what I want you to please take with you is what we experienced here and bring it into the whole rest of the day. And I'm very grateful for the gift of listening that you've all brought to this morning. So thank you.
Thank you.